What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Awake and Sober Podcast, a podcast about life and recovery through Christ.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody?
How are you?
Man, Shoutouts, Tactile Turn.
Tactile Turn.
TactileTurn.com. Best writing utensil ever made.
On the planet.
Yes.
The
Love
green
these
jacket
pens. There you go. Yes.
Yeah, they'll see that coming up.
Pens, the flashlights, knives. They make knives. Check them out. They make knives. TactileTurn.com. And with
They
that,
do make knives.
they
Go
do.
ahead.
Is that one of them? Wait, wow.
Of course.
There it is.
Everyday carry.
Right? EDC up in there. And with that, Country Design, check them out on Facebook. Country Designs. They make her shirts. Order what it was. Give her an idea. Let them make your design for you and see how much you appreciate it. They did that for us. You see it on the cup. They do the laser printing on the cups. Do the shirts. Country Design on Facebook. Give them a shout out. Let them know Awake and Sober sent you.
They need a website. Make it a little bit easier.
Yes. Yeah, they'll get there.
Yeah.
They'll get there.
That's not the fun thing to design. That's for sure.
I can't imagine.
No.
Got a
They'll
fun
get there.
show today.
We do.
We do.
What's going on?
I got my mama here.
You got your moms over here.
Mama Schwank.
Hey,
Hi,
Miss
Mom.
Val.
Mama Schwank.
You know, he still has friends from high school that still call me Miss Val.
Miss Val. Okay.
Yep. They all do. Yep.
Well, that's just a term of respect, and that's I love it.
Yes. How are you, Mom?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I hear you, but I can't really see
You don't have to. You
I
don't have
know.
to worry about even seeing me through
yeah.
all of this.
The row of cameras has that blocked.
So whose idea was this for me to come on?
Mine.
Was it?
I mean, we wanted to do interviews, but
Yeah.
I'd like to.
Like said when Shane prayed us in, talking about we're seeing another side of the recovery thing. I know I have family members that watch this program because they have members that are still using it.
Right.
Now that we can actually bring someone in that's been on the other side is
Yeah.
what we want. That's why we got you here. I got a quick question for you guys, man. Does any one of you guys feel like you're strutting down to a ring for a boxing match or something when we play our intro?
Always.
It sounds like a strut song, man. Like I'm ready to got my gloves up. Let's do it.
That is so weird because that is exactly what I was thinking. The last time I went to a boxing match, I was strutting down to that song.
MMA fight, something.
I am all over that, yes.
WWE, whatever.
All over that.
It sounds like a strut song to the stage, man. I love it.
It's a good jam. It's one that I just can't see getting rid of because as you look for other songs, it just...
No, it's
I know.
that's Awake and Sober all the way right there.
Have
man.
you ever heard it on another commercial or podcast or anything?
never heard it anywhere.
We had one through church. My pastor and I did a podcast for a little while, and the hymn he chose, or not the hymn, but the song he chose, during the Super Bowl like 4 or 5 years ago, it was the theme song for the Viagra. Pastor, he texted me. He's like, "Did you just hear that theme song?" I was like, "Was that our theme song?" He's like, "It was."
Wow.
Was that the one where the pill went dropping everywhere and then went into the car?
I don't remember. I just remember he was panicked
remember.
because it was.
That was the Fiat commercial.
commercial.
Yeah, the Fiat.
It's like, oh boy.
Where they
The
came
little
out these
blue pill
bigger
went
Fiats. Yeah.
down and made the Fiat a little
So I was
bigger.
like, that's interesting that we would pick that. The church would pick that, and so would somebody else. So yeah, that's
All right.
yeah,
The church and Viagra.
yeah. I know. Look, okay, I'm not going to say it. I almost said
I'm
it.
trying to think
The
of
many awakenings.
I can think of a lot, and I don't want to. So.
Yeah.
Next company. All right.
A lot of puns that could go
Yes,
with this.
there are.
I was thinking something about the power of resurrection, but I'm gonna let it go.
as long as it doesn't last more than 4 hours.
Gosh, your mother is here. I'm
Yeah,
right here.
sure. Your
I'm
mom's here.
sitting right here.
Can I talk about the many awakenings of Peter?
Oh my gosh. I'm pretty sure the dentist called and I need to leave. That has to be more comfortable right now.
Welcome to the podcast.
That was one of our pastors did that during an Easter sermon. His zipper broke and talked about the many awakenings.
No, he did not.
He did.
Yes.
He did.
He didn't know his zipper was broke either.
Oh, okay.
But it was funny the way that things just transpired. And so you had all the people in recovery, the immature people of the group, up there just laughing and laughing and laughing the whole entire time. So
Oh, the funny one was when he was talking about Peter and what everything that Peter was doing and how we all need a little Peter in us.
Everybody needs a little Peter in them.
Okay, so
Anybody
anyway.
want to get away now? Yeah, it's like anybody want to get away now?
We were talking about Peter.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know, got to
can't be
deny
Mark.
Christ.
Derek, your giggle says everything, though. It's like, oh, that's not what I'm talking about, but okay.
He's the giggle machine.
I know he is.
Mr. Giggles.
Oh, I'm sorry. For Amy, here, you're going to have to show that. She,
There's a hole in your shoe.
right. So she says, why are you wearing those shoes? And I'm like, you don't see my shoes on the Dadgum podcast. What does it matter what shoes I wear? These are my most comfortable ones. She goes, I want to see your holy shoes. So you're going to have to.
It's church shoes. They holy.
These shoes were made for walking.
Yeah.
And that's just what they'll do.
Yeah.
How you been, man?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Doing good. Yeah.
You gotta come up with a better answer, man.
Sorry, I just woke up not too long ago, honestly. No,
Somebody got to take a nap.
I had a headache. No, it's I really don't have anything to complain about. Really.
But what's going good then?
Huh?
Yeah.
All in all, everything is kind of just going good. Yeah.
Is gooder and good.
It's good. It's like Gouda cheese.
Yeah. I realized I'm not 24 anymore. I cut some trees down the other day, and yeah. I slept for like 12 hours straight, and then I woke up and popped a bunch of ibuprofen. Well,
Dude, that doesn't sound right. I popped a bunch of ibuprofen.
At least it didn't say just stop it popped.
Yeah.
We at least got to hear the ibuprofen. So how are you doing, D?
I'm getting better, man. It's just like I said, had been exhausted and put a lot of time in everything that I enjoy doing, and just getting to that point now where I'm about to get that staycation. I'm just gonna chill and that, probably taking next week off the podcast just so part of my whole chill factor and that, and just outside. I mean, things seem to be going good. I love the fact how we sit at CR during dinner and we're just like, where is everybody? But they come about 5 minutes after 7 and every seat's darn near filled up. Love it.
CR, Celebrate Recovery.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean, Miss Val. She don't threaten to beat me if I call her ma'am anymore.
Mama Schwanker.
Mom Swanker.
yep.
Been called that too, yeah.
How are you, Shane?
I am well. Last night was good. It was gooder than good. It was fun just watching people show up that I haven't seen yet. I love when newcomers come, but especially when they're newcomers from within the church that you should have probably been there a while back, but they haven't been. And so to see them last night was really good and really uplifting. Time of worship was great.
Oh, that last song though, man, it crushed me.
I heard you. You said that this morning.
Yeah. Well, ain't nobody on the podcast here.
Yeah, there was a song, that third song that he's talking about. So whenever I was planning the night, I heard this song and I thought of Derek, right? And so I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and play this song. And I didn't think that what had transpired, like the
Right.
anniversary
So
of your brother's.
at the filming of this podcast, it was just a couple days after the anniversary of his passing, and then we played that song, and the verse of it straight up comes out and says, even when my brother passed, you were there. And it was like crushed,
But I had no clue that it was the anniversary of. I mean, if I really sit back and think, I can remember sitting in Dairy Queen's dining room and eating while I got the call. But
That was the spirit doing
Yeah.
its thing.
but that's what makes it so good about the time of worship when you go to plan it, that if God is in it with you, then things like that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
If it's all about you, those things just don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
What really got me though was I thought, felt that I was praying on it and all that. It wasn't bothering me. I wasn't letting it bother me. But at the same time, like I just said, I wasn't letting it bother me. Then that song reminded me, no, God's been having this. He's the one that's been holding on to this. You are where you are because of him. And it's like, oh yeah, that's what crushed me.
Million Little Miracles is the name of the song.
How long has your brother been gone?
3 years.
3 years. My brother died actually 2 years ago next week.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, he was the baby. So our birthday is the same day, and his funeral was the day before our birthday.
Oh, wow.
So
Your birthday's next month?
it's August 21st. Yeah.
Oh, August.
I just say that so Jeremy will remember.
Yep,
It's
that's
August 21st. I know.
I just
Oh, next week. I don't know why I'm thinking next month.
Okay, yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah.
Did you not know your mama's birthday?
I did. I just don't pay attention.
I ain't seen my mom in 40 years, but I remember her birthday.
I remember my birthday. I just always forget when it's that month.
Yeah. I know.
August 21st, August 21st, October 21st, and September 22nd.
Oh my gosh.
See, I remember.
That's better than Dad.
So my mama is August 18th, sitting right upstairs.
Oh.
So her
better not
birthday is
forget.
coming up by the time this podcast drops. So
I've
happy
given her-
birthday, mama.
Happy birthday, mama.
Happy birthday.
I've given her way too many birthday presents already, so I can't hold on to birthday presents. I'm horrible at it, but I am well.
I give my mom the best birthday present.
Oh, I'm gonna
You leave her alone?
Me.
No, you brought her on a podcast. Oh,
No, what were
Happy
you gonna
birthday.
say? You were gonna say me, weren't you? Yeah. I just threw up. in my
35
mouth.
hours she
Yeah.
was in labor. I hear it all the time.
So it is true that I was in labor for 27 hours, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
He's an overachiever. He likes it to grow as he gets older.
No, I like it to grow because every year I call him, I'm like, and he always says, "I'm sure by the time you die, Mom, I would have been in labor. You would have been in labor for 4 years with me." I was like, "Pretty much." So, yeah.
See,
That's probably what it felt like.
I
though.
came out making her life hell for a while. So, this is all just coming full
You
circle.
did scare me at first because they called the code blue and they took him away, and I was like, "What are they doing?" So, and hasn't
look
stopped
at me.
since. Yeah, hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
Now we see why the code blue was called.
Yeah.
nice.
All right. So,
Mama Schwenker, how you doing?
Good. Excited to be here. Thank you for asking. I love to talk about recovery. My recovery.
Good.
I had to learn not to talk about my boys' recovery and not, when I say my boys, I mean my husband and my son, and not to be in their business and just mind my own business. So that's been really good. So
I think that'd be a good question too. How do you separate those?
yeah.
Al-Anon has helped me. I mean, yeah,
Oh, well, what brought you into recovery, Mom?
Well, my son, I was, and I asked my husband if I could talk about this, so I can. So we got married when I was 20. We were both 20, actually. And we had people over at the house all the time because we were the only married couple. And so we partied a lot. And then when I was going to have a baby, I was like, I think it's time to grow up now. And I did, and Jerry just thought that meant just drink more. So all my married life, Jerry has drank. And so I say this all the time. I sound like a horrible person, but I gave up on him about 18 years into our marriage because I was like, he would say, I'm going to quit. I didn't understand the disease. I just understood that he didn't love me. If he did, he'd quit drinking. And I remember having conversations with my son saying, just don't take that first drink. Because if you take that first drink, because I have never known my life without alcoholism in it. When I was a kid and my mom and dad were still married, I remember we drove down on Sundays, we would take a drive, and we'd drive down to Malcolm Bliss, which was a hospital for the mentally impaired. But that's also where they put the drunk women when they got out of hand on Saturday night, and that's where my grandma would end up, my dad's mom. So she was always in there. So we would go pick her up from there. My dad is just a whole other story, and I don't remember him really drinking until after him and my mom got divorced. But my stepdad, who is the sweetest man in the world, can be the meanest drunk, and he was always drunk. And then I married a drunk, and then I birthed one. So call me crazy, but yeah. So I was
Mentally impaired.
yeah.
I think that's what you labeled it.
It is when I was almost 60. I was turning 60 5 years ago, and I decided that I wanted to make the rest of my life the best of my life. And this one was had been in rehab a time or two, and was trying to quit. And can I tell the whole story, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I've already shared most of it.
Yeah, I know.
Can you get rid of that paper though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah,
No,
'cause
you're
I
good,
do.
you're
Yeah.
good, yeah.
I know I talk with my hands. I was like, oh, yeah. But he was relapsing a lot, and whenever he would relapse, his wife didn't want him at home, so he came. One of us parents picked him up and brought him to our home. And the last time he came, he had come. I was so mad at him. I yelled at him. I screamed at him. I did everything, and then a couple days later, he shows up at my house to clean out the gutters, which they haven't been cleaned out since. So that's intense. Yeah,
Jeremy, come on over.
I know. Yeah, but he came over, and I was on the phone, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I came to clean out the gutters," and I was like, "Okay, then leave." I didn't even want to. That's the craziness of my disease. I had tried everything, begging. I'd done it so long with my husband that that bothered me, but it scared me when it was my child, even though he was almost 40, So he came over, and that day he said, "Mom, I have a gift for you." And it was a How Al-Anon Works book. And he had written this long note in there. And he said, one thing he said is, sometimes you don't realize you're drowning when you're trying to be everybody's anchor. And that was really true. And so, like any good mother, I looked at the book and I started to read it. And then I said, "Get out of my house." And I threw it at him. That was just the crazy I was. It was just, people talk about it. And it wasn't really because of the alcoholic. It's just that I was crazy, But so 2 days later, I went to my first Al-Anon meeting. I had gone before with my daughter-in-law the first time my son went into rehab. And she's like, so we get out, we go to the meeting, we come back, and they were all smiling and laughing, and they were all just jovial, and they loved their alcoholics. And I got out, and Amy's like, "So what'd you think?" And I said, "I think that is a great program for you." I know. And she's like, "You didn't like it?" And I was like, "I surely did not." And I got into my car, and I white-knuckled the steering wheel and was like, "That place is a cult. I am never going back there. Those people are too happy." And so I went, but I did. And all this time, so in October 12th was my first meeting of 2019. And then my husband got a DUI in December, and he was still drinking, active drinking. And all I would do is go to the meeting on Saturday morning. I'd get there when it started. I'd left when it ended, and that was it. And I never got to know anybody. I just went. But then that night, my husband wasn't home for dinner, and I thought something had happened to Jeremy, and so I tried calling him, texting him, didn't hear anything, and so then he calls, and I said, "Is Jeremy okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess so." And I was like, "Where are you?" Because it's like an hour and a half past his, time to be home. He's like, "Well, I'm in jail." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, I was like, "Is this," because he's a jokester. He plays jokes on people all the time. And so I was like, "This isn't funny." And he said,
"Don't look at me."
I know, yeah. I said, "This isn't funny." And he's like, "I'm serious." And he said, "The police officer said if you get here within an hour, I can leave." So I hung up the phone and I call him, and he was actually at an AA meeting that night. And I said, Dad said he's at St. Peter's police station.
Oh, it didn't come out like that at all.
No, it didn't. It was like...
It was a little hysterical.
I was very hysterical. I was like, Dad said... I don't even know how he understood me. And so he's like, "Mom, I'll go get him." And so he went and got him. And then when he got home, he said... And he brought him home. He said, "We need to go see if the truck's drivable." I didn't know that my husband had wrecked the truck, too. And so we went to get it. We came back. My husband was still sitting in the chair in the same position he was when we left 2 hours before that. And so I said to him, "Do you want to talk?" And he's like, "Do you?" And I said, I don't know what to say. The miracle of that is, had that happened before I went to Al-Anon, I would have cussed at him. I would have thrown stuff. I would have yelled. And I just said, "I'm really tired and I need to go to bed." And so the next day he went to an AA meeting, and he's been going ever since. And he's been sober since that day. So that's how I got there. I just lived in, I like I said, I've never known my life without an alcoholic in it. So, and there it is.
There you have it. There's the mic drop.
I was like, there it is.
Boom, there it is. Yeah.
So next week's episode.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's probably, it took long enough, didn't I? So it probably is next week's episode.
No. Well, I can see us sit on there for 2 hours with you. Mm-hmm. And your husband already forewarned that you talk, so we might be here for a couple hours.
People have asked him before, "Why are you so quiet?" And he's like, "I've known her 48 years. I never get a word in edgewise." I was like, okay.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. I mean, I know a lot of times we start with growing up, but we're already here.
Yeah.
Let's hear about it.
Fear. I thought I was an angry person for a long time, and until I realized, because of going to Al-Anon meetings, I was just afraid. I was afraid of losing those I loved. I was afraid they were going to kill themselves. Like, I was really afraid. He had just found he had just gotten married to Amy and had these 2 kids he was crazy about. And for the first time, I saw real happiness in him in a relationship. And I was like, you're going to blow it. You are going to blow it. And it was fear of my child dying, you know. And I always say this, and it drives him crazy, but he's my only child. He was a police officer. He's, you know, he's had cancer. He's done all this stuff. And I am like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to focus on you, you know. But one of my first amends I made, actually, because we, in Al-Anon, we do the same steps as the AA, was to Jeremy. And it was to, you know, I looked to him to make me happy, because all my life growing up, my mom had always told me everything I did wrong. So whatever I did was never right. And it was constant. And I remember one time I was up for, this is really not exciting, but I was up for barn warming queen. It's really not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
What was that called again?
Barn warming queen.
She's looking like, what the heck is farmland?
Well, because this was all farmland. I grew up out here in St. Charles. And so it was all farmland. It was all farmers. And so it was barn warming queen. And I came home and I said to my mom, I'm on the court for barn warming queen. And she said, you know, that's a joke, right? And that was my mom. And then she'd say, I'm just kidding. But then she'd always, you know, and if I'd get, she was really sick in the last 6 months of her life. And she was in the hospital. When I'd get there, she'd be like, I'd get there at 6 o'clock in the morning before I'd go to work. And she'd say, why weren't you here at 5? You know, it was never, ever. So I've always felt like a failure. So when I had a child, and he was a really easy kid. He was just like, okay, let's just go. And then I was like, okay, I did something, you know, I did that. And then when he was drinking, I was like, I did that, you know, and it wasn't me. It was, you know, but so I always, and I tell people, I sponsor 6 women now, and I say to them, I say, I know, I say,
6 codependent women.
yeah, I know, yeah. It's been amazing. It has been, they're all different personalities for sure, you know, but I love walking with people through this. But I always, and at meetings I've said this, I thought I was angry. Turns out I was scared, but I was afraid to leave. That was my comfort zone, because that's all I think for something to be a comfort zone doesn't mean you like it. I mean, my husband worked a job for, he just retired for 49 years, and he did not love that job, but that was his comfort zone. And I think that's what happens to all of us. I think we just get into a comfort zone, and it's just like, it's just what I know. It's just, so for me to step out of that and be like, wait, I don't worry about it. I don't try to control everybody. I don't try to quit. I don't try to make them quit drinking. I don't, you know, that was weird for me, you know, because then that meant I had to look at myself. So, oh, you can hear that, can't you? Yeah, I know, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I don't know, and I've learned a lot. At the same time, I was also searching for a church. So that summer I went to 13 different churches because I was looking for a church. I went to non-denominational, I went to Catholic, I went to Lutheran, I went to every, you know, and I couldn't find, because that was really important to me. I was turning 60, and like I said, that was my motto, the rest of my life, the best of my love. And for me, that was finally getting into a relationship with Jesus. And so I went to all these churches, and I kept going to I went to this little church, and I was like, oh, that is not for me, because I love all the, you know, praise and worship stuff. And this was all people, I'm one of the youngest ones there, so that tells you. But I but I loved the pastor there, and I loved what he had to say. And I loved that I could go up to him and ask him questions, and he'd be like, let me tell you about this, you know. And I love that I've started reading my Bible, and not just reading my Bible, I'm studying my Bible. And so all that's happened in the last 5 years. So I am the most content I've been ever in my whole life. So things still happen that make you sad and break your heart, and, you know, but I'm content. And so
quick question. You brought up your walk with Christ, and that, how much did that change your, I mean, you were at AA. I mean, I guess
Al-Anon,
you've always,
yeah.
yeah, Al-Anon, but you've always had a spiritual
Not really.
Really? Okay, so it wasn't. So you get into Al-Anon and then you have this walk with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
When the two of those, you put those two together, do you think your walk in Al-Anon would have been as powerful as it has been without Christ?
I think the two of them happened at the perfect time. I think God knew what he was doing. I did. My dad is an atheist and my mom was Catholic, but we only went every once in a while, and for reasons she never got to take sacraments or anything, and I sent my son to parochial schools, and I also we went to church every Sunday. But if you ask me if I really had deep faith, I don't think I did. I've kept a journal since I was 8 or 9 years old, and I would write in my journal, "Dear diary, please don't let this happen. Please don't let this." And a couple years ago, I was like, you know what? I wasn't really writing to my diary. I believed in God, I guess, because a piece of paper is not going to make my dad not yell at me or scream at me or whatever, So that was kind of eye opening too. So, but I thank God for Al-Anon, and I thank Al-Anon because I finally learned to trust God. Because I was always saying, "Okay, God, I'm giving it to you." And then I had a pastor friend who said to me, "You do that, but then if it's not going the way you want or as fast, you're like, wait a minute, I think I can do better." And I start pulling it back in, and now I really do say, "Okay, God, this is on you." We are going through a time right now where I could feel terrified because we weren't good with money when we were younger, and my husband just retired, and we're both not. I mean, we both ache when we walk, and we walk like old crippled people, and we don't have a. When I first got married, I was like, and then when we retire, we're going to see the world, and and our house is more than we need. It has stuff, I'd like a ranch, all this stuff. And so for a while I was just like freaked out. I was like, we're just going to die. I don't know what's going to happen. We're going to die. And then I have this little God box, and I know a lot of people talk about their God box, but what I do is when I'm obsessing about something, I used to say, "Dear God, please let my son quit drinking. Please let my husband, be kinder to me. Please let this happen." And now I just put whatever's obsessing me. If it's my I have grandkids that I worry about now because they're 16 and 14. That's a age where everything can happen, Nah. Yeah, I know. But I will, if I'm obsessing about that, I've been obsessing about my husband's retirement the last 6 months. I've been obsessing about not having the money I wish we had. So what I do is I just write down retirement, and I fold it up and I put it in the box, and I say, "Okay, God, that's yours." And if I start to obsess about it, then I have to rewrite it again and put it back in there, because my deal was, if I put it in my God box, that means I'm giving it to God, and I cannot worry about it anymore. So.
I think we all should get a God box.
Right. It'd be a good habit to get into.
I can hook you guys up with that.
You can hook us up with some God boxes?
Yes, I can.
I was just wondering if she used a tactile turn pen when she was journaling at the age of 8.
But we also need to get a box made, maybe with the Awake and Sober.
That would be awesome.
We've got some great ideas now.
There we go.
Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome.
Would you say,
This is why we brought you here.
would you say, because, we were, you raised me going to church every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I went to school to be a pastor originally.
And a half hour after he had Greek class, he calls me and says, "Yeah, that's not going to work." I know, yeah.
Actually, it was Hebrew.
Oh, yeah, Hebrew. Yeah. It was one of them.
I liked Greek. I did see Hebrew. I didn't like. But would you say that you knew God, but you weren't trying to know God?
I would say I knew who God was. And, I taught in Lutheran schools for 30 years almost in preschool. So, like I told my pastor, I know all the Sunday school versions of the stories, but, I didn't know that Noah got drunk. I never knew that until recently. I didn't know Noah got drunk and made a fool out of himself. Yeah, I didn't know that. So I just know that Noah built an ark. But when you think about, and I told the kids, know the Lord, don't know, and all that. Well, I don't focus on the part where everybody died because everybody was sinning, So that has been a blessing to me. I will say the only reason we ever started going to church is Jeremy was going to a Lutheran school, and he came home one day, and he was in 4th or 5th grade. And he said, "Here's the deal. I am tired of being the only one on Mondays who doesn't raise their hand when the teacher says, 'Who went to church yesterday?'" he did that to me, and he made us start going to church. And so we started going to church. He's like, I found this church I like. If you don't like it, my friend said that his dad's the pastor there, and they can pick me up and bring me. And I was like, he walked away, and I was like, son of a gun, we're going to have to go to church now.
So what church was it?
Messiah Lutheran.
Messiah Lutheran.
But at that time, we were meeting in the Knights of Columbus, which is now Menino's in Cottleville.
And we would pour out all the beer from the night before to set up the church. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a long time ago.
Did you pour it out or did you drink it?
I didn't. I wasn't going to drink.
They put a little red dye in it, and the blood of Christ fell for you.
You could tell who the happy people were in church, though. I was like, oh, they cleaned it out. Yeah, they cleaned up the beer. Yeah. So.
Jerry, why are you in the back of church? Yeah.
But I will say that's the relationship that I work on the most now. And I've said this too at meetings and stuff, but I've never known unconditional love. And that sounds weird because I'm a mom. But even your kids need you because you got to feed them, teach them to walk, all that stuff. And heaven knows my mom, her love was always conditional, and even my husband, well, I'll do this if you do that, and so until I just really let go and said, okay, God. And when I did my fourth and fifth step, that was a big time for me to let go and be like, God loves me even though I've done all that, so.
What's been the most eye-opening step or most awakening step for you?
When I sat down and did my fourth step with my sponsor, because there's so much about me that people don't know that when I think of who I was, because I was dying for attention. And so I did a lot of stuff that people should not be doing, and a lot of stuff some people knew, a lot of stuff nobody knew. And there's a couple of things that my husband doesn't know. But when I sat down with my sponsor and I was like, I'm going to only tell her this much, And 4 hours later, I ended up spilling things to her that I've never shared with anybody, And I was like, and honestly, when I was done, I said, how does this work? Do they have a list of people who will sponsor people that nobody else wants to sponsor? And she's like, why are you asking me that? And I was like, did you hear what I just vomited out for 4 years? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, and honestly, I love you even more now. And so I think that was the click where I was like, okay. And then she said, and as much as I love you, God loves you even more. So I was like, oh, okay. So.
Well.
So that's how nice you're supposed to be during that.
It's an Al-Anon thing. We wouldn't get it.
Well, I will say there's times when there have been people in the program who drive me crazy, or my kid will drive me crazy, or somebody, and she'll be like, "Come over, we're gonna do a fourth step on that." And I was like, "Oh." So a few weeks ago, something was bothering me, and I called her, and I was like, "And I already started my inventory about it, okay?" I know.
Nice.
So I was like, "Okay."
Oh wow. I never really thought of it like that. Al-Anon doing actually. I know they do the steps, but really doing a 4-step and stuff. Yeah. I hear it. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to ask. Your mom's kind of shared it all with us, right?
That was quick. All right. So make sure you turn it next week.
Yes, turn it next week. 2 weeks, we'll have another mom on here.
Have you had what struggles have you had in your recovery journey?
I think when I first started getting it, because when I finally did get a sponsor and stuff, I went all in and I started doing multiple meetings a week, and I was like, I just want everybody. And then I realized that I was kind of cramming it down people's throats. So that's kind of hard for me to step back and be like, and when I stepped back, then people started to say to me, what's different about you? And I've always been a talker. I never meet a stranger. But it's just I'm more comfortable in my own skin and who I am, and that's been the blessing, I guess. I always said the first time I got asked to share my story, I said I am the granddaughter, daughter, stepdaughter, mom, wife, all these people of an alcoholic, and that was how I identified myself. And now I don't even say that. I say, hey, I'm Val. And the first time I really said that, and it kind of clicked to me like, that's really who I am. I really am Val, you know. It wasn't the first time I said it. I had been in meetings like probably 4 or 5 months, and I said, you know, when I started to, my turn came to share, and I said, hi, I'm Val. And then I was like, I'm Val. And everybody was like, what's happening? I know. And I was like,
A spiritual experience because of working these steps.
I know, yeah.
She just discovered what her name
Yeah,
was.
I know. Yeah. Did you know that was her name? Yeah. I think another thing that's hard is because when I first went, even though my daughter-in-law had told me about Al-Anon, I really thought I would go in there and they would tell me how to make my husband and my son quit drinking, you know, and that's hard. And I think so. I've seen so many people come in. Last Monday, I spoke at a meeting out in Creve Coeur, and there was a person it was her first day at her first meeting ever. And so I said, if you ever need to talk, just, you know, call me or text me and I'll meet you for coffee. So she called me and I met her on last Thursday for 4 hours. And when she sat down, she had paper and pen. And I said, okay, first off, I need to tell you, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I mean, I can't, that's not what this is about. It's about putting your oxygen mask on so that you can be the best you can. You cannot help anybody. And helping them doesn't mean that you're paying their bills and you're picking them up out of jail and you're doing all this stuff. Helping them is you love them and that's been one of the biggest things. I love my alcoholics where they are and not where I want them to be. And that's also helped me to see people that way. I love people where they are and not where I want them to be. And that's been big.
Dude, I am so glad she's here. She's bringing it. I'm sorry. I say that because I got a question for you. And I'm going to ask, now, with your mom going to Al-Anon and that, and I guess we could safely say your wife as well, has that...
Safely, yeah.
Well,
Did you hear me say she's the one who made me go the first
Yes,
time?
that's why I said that, because you said he was the only son. You said daughter-in-law a couple times,
Yeah.
so it's already out there.
It is.
All right? But has that helped you in your recovery? Knowing that I asked this because I feel, you know, my wife, if you ever meet her, she'll straight up tell you she was queen codependent. She ain't to back up on that, and she lets me say it here on the podcast. I have a strong feeling that if she would not have changed her ways, the time would have came where I would have took advantage of it. I've shared it on this podcast before. That's why I'm asking you, do you feel that them going into the Al-Anon and learning their steps and doing their program and strengthening themselves was a pillar for your recovery as well?
I've said on this podcast before, and I'll say it again. My mom and my wife have a black belt in Al-Anon. And I don't, and as you can tell, that's why. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, my mom went from she shared about that first meeting she went to with Amy and said she was never going to do that again. That's not for her; it's for somebody else. And now, how many times do you speak? I mean, she goes to conferences, she does all this stuff, and you know, Amy works in recovery now, and Amy goes to her meetings, and Amy does that. I can honestly say the relationship that I have with my mom today, I would have never imagined it in a million years. And I can see the relationship that she has with my father, which is always the relationship I feel like they always wanted, that my mom always wanted. And I think that God has just taken us on this journey. And I mean, I used to have to, I mean, it's not a secret, I used to have to get drunk just to go over to a family function. And then I'd get sick, quote unquote. I'm doing air quotes there, right?
For those y'all listening.
Yeah. I would get sick and then have to leave, you know, or I'd be in the bathroom throwing. It was just, it's awful. And now we can actually genuinely laugh and enjoy time together. And it's not chaotic. And she has a relationship with, you know, the kids and with me. And none of it would have been possible without God, without our faith, and without a program.
Everybody working their program.
Correct.
Yes, that's
And I
kind of where I was getting at.
And I know I say this all the time too. To me, the relationships, because we all live it in here, the relationships that work, whether it be a husband and wife, mom, dad, you know, a son, daughter kind of deal, whatever. The relationships that make it are the ones where both people are working their own individual programs. And what I feel like what my mom is saying without saying it is that she knew that I couldn't just do it on my own, and that my dad couldn't just do it on her own without her having to change her outlook and her view. Is that right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned that I really, really believe in, and I try and tell Grandma sometimes.
Oh, Grandma, yeah.
I know, is their business is none of my business. And that has been the biggest thing for me, because I will be like, well, I wonder if they're getting along. I wonder if they're eating. I wonder if they're, and it's none of my business. Even my husband's recovery isn't none of my business. That's his recovery, and that's tricky sometimes, because I'll be like, okay, he hasn't been to a meeting, and so does he need to go to a meeting? Does he need to talk to a sponsor? And then I'm like, that's none of my business, So, and I think that really helped. I cannot say enough good things about my daughter-in-law. And I think what really helped me is that I started staying out of her business, because I was like, oh, I don't think she should say that, or I wouldn't tell her that, but there would be times I was very passive aggressive. And then one day I learned that, something happened and it hurt my feelings, and I went home and with a big chip on my shoulder, and I remember sitting there thinking, why am I taking that personal? It's not me. And that's the other thing. I've quit taking stuff personally, and that helps me a lot. If if I go over to see, because Grandma lives with Jeremy and Amy, and if I go over there to see her and I don't see them as long, or they don't come down and play cards and they want to watch a movie, then that's not personal. It's because they want to watch a movie together, and so that's what that has been a big eye-opening thing for me too. So
black belt 5th degree over here.
That's right. I'm telling you.
So I got to ask, at the beginning of your journey, did you go from one extreme to the other? I see it so many times that people, you want to not be codependent so bad that you kind of go off the rails the other side.
I don't think I did, because it took me, like, I was going for a couple of months, and like I said, I was just going to the meeting and leaving, and then in January, so I started in October. In January, they do this big thing called, it's over, and I forget. But anyways, it's called the Winter Conference, for Al-Anon. And I didn't have a sponsor yet. And I was like, I'm going to get a sponsor, because I think I'm learning what this is about, and I was reading everything I could. And so I got a sponsor. And I think then that I was like, I started going to multiple meetings, and I love those. But I also learned how not to just be, I can't explain it. I don't think I went to the other end so much. I will say, though, that it seems like now, because my life kind of revolves around Al-Anon. I mean, it doesn't revolve around Al-Anon, but like I spoke at a meeting last week. I'm speaking on a nationwide Al-Anon thing in September. I got asked to speak in October in a thing in Springfield, so that helps me. As nervous as I get, that helps me. When people ask me to sponsor them, I've had a couple that didn't work out, that I was like, that's hard, because the first time that didn't work out, I was like, I was laying in bed that night, and I was just so upset. I was like, man, I wish that would have worked out, because and when she called and what she said, and I said, find another sponsor, but don't quit going to meetings, because you need meetings. You need to be in the program. You need to, but find another sponsor. I get it. Well, that night when I was asleep, and I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, and I don't know what this has to do with anything, but I swear I could hear my mom's voice just as loud and as clear as day saying, so, not only messed up your life, but now you messed up her life. And that was hard. But you know what I did? I called my sponsor, and I said, oh, so. And
Sounded like a haunted thing.
I did.
Yeah.
But usually I sing like an angel.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to sing.
I will say something else that really, really helped me is, there was two things. Jeremy was asked to speak at an Al-Anon thing, and they had an Al-Anon speaker, and this person didn't come or show up. And so they're like, will you speak? And I was like, I feel weird, because that's Jeremy's thing, and so I texted him. I said, Jeremy, they asked me to speak to you. And he's like, Mom, it's a family disease. I think we should do that. But then I was worried about how Amy would feel. I was like, and then I was like, okay, I just got to worry about what I'm going to say. Not worry about, but I'm just sharing my story. It's no different than if, whatever. And that I know that sounds weird, but that was a little turning point because when I came back, Amy was like, thank you for sharing, you know, and Jeremy was too. And then people were, I mean, nobody knew he was my son until he said, well, you heard my mom talk, now I'm going to talk. And so it's funny because people that we both know didn't know that, you know, we were, sorry, I keep hitting that,
right.
didn't know that he was my son. So that was interesting. And there was something else I wonder. Hope I know you guys when you're 65 because I just forgot what it was. I'll think of it, I'm sure.
We've had that issue for a long time.
It was like, yeah, 45.
Yeah, it's
We
like,
blame
oh
the
my
drugs
God.
and alcohol.
Okay, that's what I blame your drugs and alcohol too, Shane.
I would too.
I know, yeah.
We did enough.
Go ahead.
I didn't have anything to ask at the moment.
She's tearing it up. I
Dude,
honestly don't know.
I'm telling you, man.
She could just keep speaking.
Well, see, yeah, and I'm really happy that we did this and that because I know one of my big things at work is I like to talk with the families. I like to work with the families, and I try to encourage the families to go to meetings and stuff. And now we, encourage the podcast, and now we have someone a family member that's been through it, that they can actually see the reactions and the actions that have to take place, for the family. It's not just I can't always say it as well as you do. What's your little thing about recovery not being
addiction isn't a spectator sport.
There it
Eventually
is.
the entire family gets to
There it is. The family has to be involved. I've talked with some family members, and I'm like, he's going to relapse because of you. And as much as I want to tell the family members, I got told I can't, but I really want to look at him just like, dude, he's going to relapse because of you. You're not working your part in all this.
I guess that's what's fun about doing it outside of a place like that.
the treatment
Yeah.
center.
Oh, yeah, on the streets, I'm all day long, but
You're going to relapse, and you're going to be the cause of the relapse. Yes.
Yeah, because when I meet with families, I tell them if all of you don't get help, they're coming home to a broken home. They're coming home to a broken home, and it's going to go right back to the way it was.
or what's your favorite line? All right, everybody, who's the weakest one in the room?
Weakest link? And that's always my first question. So they always point at the biggest codependent in the room. And then that's who we focus on. We got to get you to help the most.
Yeah.
Because
We'll
if you
get him in a program. You need to go to this meeting, and speak with somebody there. But yeah, so it's really good to have you. I really appreciate you coming out here and joining us and that.
I do have a question.
Oh, no.
Why is it important for you to share your experience and hope with others?
Well, because that's what they say. We got to share our experience, strength, and hope. And I think when I do, because I've heard so many, I always say we're all on the same journey, but we're just taking different paths. Some people come in, their kids are addicted to drugs. Some people come in, their husband is an alcoholic. We had a gentleman come to our meeting last week whose wife is in rehab and he doesn't know what to do. And he said, I need to know what to do when she gets out. And I was like, what you need to know is you need to take care of yourself when she gets out and let her program be her program, and he's like, but what if she fails? And I was like, then you have a room full of people here who will love you and walk with you through it. I the first time that he went into rehab, I remember I went to a family meeting that night, and there was a gentleman there, and he was talking about, he was on his phone the whole time. We were talking. He wasn't saying any, he was just like, and he'd be like, yeah, and then he'd get back on his phone. And so he said, it's the third time. She'll be back here in 6 months, And I remember I left there so indignant. Oh, this is going to be Jeremy's only time. He's going to get this, and then he's going to get married, and then he's going to be fine. This will be his only time, and then I'll never have to worry about it again. And that's not always true.
And 20 times later.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and
Twice.
there is nothing that hurts as bad as watching your child go through something. And he's been through cancer, and and that was hard as a parent. But to see. But I remember one day when he was being treated, he said, I was at the treatment center with him. This is with his cancer. And I was sitting there and I was like, Jeremy, I can't stand watching you go through this. And he's like, Mom, it is way harder on you than it is on me. And I was like, that's interesting, So, and that's how I kind of feel about the alcoholism. It's hard. I thought that before I went to open AA meetings were a godsend to me because I was just mad at my son and mad at my husband, and and even though I'd been in Al-Anon, I was like, I just don't get it. But when when my husband started going, that was our Saturday night date, was to go to AA meeting, you know. But I would hear those stories and I would be like, that's my kid. I mean, you know, that's my husband. I could see the disease and not just see the person anymore, you know. And that was another big eye-opening thing for me. But I will say there was a little incident when Jeremy, the last time he got sober, before he went to the place he went to, he was at the cabin and he didn't know, I didn't know he was up there in timeout. That's what I always said. He was in timeout, you know, because he was actively drinking. And I got up there and it was 3:00 in the afternoon and the house was dark and he was asleep on the couch with air quotes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, we got into this huge argument, you know, and I was in Al-Anon like 2 years then. Yeah, because it was 21. So I was in Al-Anon for 2 years. I just started sponsoring my first person. And so he started to leave. And I said, where are you going to go? You have nowhere to go. And so we're yelling and screaming at each other. We have a lot of the same personality. And I was like,
a little bit.
I was like, I'm going to stop him. So I stood in front of the car. Well, there's 150 acres. He just drove around me. You know, he's like, okay, Mom. Yeah, okay. But he left, and I went inside to get the keys to my car, and I was going to follow him. And I was driving down the driveway, and I was like, what am I doing? You know, what can I do? What can I do? Even if I catch up with him, what am I going to do? You know? And so I went in and I called my sponsor and I was hysterical. I mean, I was so scared. And I was just like, and then I was like, and then I started sponsoring person. So do I just call her and tell her I can't sponsor her anymore? And she's like, why? And I was like, because I'm not using any Al-Anon tool. And I said some horrible things. And so I told her what I said. And she said, you're right. You did say some horrible things. Don't call him tonight. Call him in the morning after you've thought about it. And I was like, all right. So she's like, and I'm going to call you back in a half hour. You need to, because I couldn't breathe. You know how when you cry so hard that you can't, you know, catch your breath? And so I did. And I was just getting ready to pick up the phone to call her and tell her I was better. And he called and said, Mom, I'm on my way to a treatment center. And that was a big click, too, because I was like, you know what? I started to chase after him. I was in the car driving down the lane. And then I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And before I would have just gone and searched for him, you know, but there would have been nothing I could do, you know. It was just going to make it worse between us, you know. And
unbeknownst to her, until you actually heard my story, it was what I was going to do that day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the gun was loaded and
yeah.
Kyle was on his way here. And yeah, I mean, it was all, and I didn't know that till like a year later, which was good, probably. But that was, you know, so when people say, well, I don't really believe in God, or, you know, I'm just like, let me tell you a little story. Because I never go to the cabin without my husband. And it was I didn't know he was up there that day. And I was like, I called my husband. I said, I'm just going to drive up there. It's so gorgeous. I just want to get up there. It was in October. And he's like, you can't wait another hour. And I was like, no, I think I want to go up there. Never have done that before. Never. And then I drive up there and then he's there. And then I was like, and I didn't know he was drunk then. I really thought he was still asleep on the couch, which made me mad at 3:00 in the afternoon that he's, you know, and so that made me mad. But then when I heard, then that's when you believe that there's God, you know, because for whatever reason, and the fact that was the time that it stuck with him, and that he's helping others and not just himself, you know. And you have to go through all, you know, sometimes you have to go through the ugly, but, and I've said this many times, it really is that old, it was a disgusting song, The Footprints in the Sand. It was all, footprints in the sand, you know. But there's so much in my life, like when I was a kid, and I'd be so mad at God. And I remember I talked to somebody who tried to tell me, well, you know, because of God, I was 18. And he said, you know, God brought you through this. And I was like, no, it's because of God you're here. And I was like, what God would let all this stuff happen to me? You know, what God would do that? And I thought that day. But then I really do realize that I really was never alone. I was really walking with God. You know, Jesus. Oh, man, I do that all the time.
Still not as bad as a lot of people.
Yeah, you're fine.
But I really was, you know, and whatever happened, and I still think that now, whatever happens, You know, I have people who are going through really hard times with their family members, you know, with aging parents and everything, but they're walking through it and they're not alone. And that's the biggest thing. You know, I know that I have a family now that I won't be alone through it, but whatever.
That's good and deep.
I was gonna say I really got nothing left, man. She's answering the questions, you know.
I do want to say one thing that has helped me too is I'm a reactor, you know, and like I said, we would get into arguments all the time, you know, and my husband would do something, I'd be like, that's stupid, and I would just like, you know, and one thing that I've learned through this program is I pause and I pray about it, and then I proceed. So the 3 P's are my favorite thing: pause, pray, and proceed. And what I do is sometimes proceeding means not going to that person and saying anything. It means keeping my mouth shut, you know, but at least I'm not reacting. I'm thinking, okay, and then I'm reflecting on it. And then I still might have to say something, but I wait till, you know, at least a few hours. And then a lot of times I never have to say anything because I worked it through. I prayed about it, you know, and so now I just say, you know, God, just show me what your will is. I don't know what you want from me. I don't have a clue. So you just tell me. Honestly, I'm going to say what I always say. Sorry, Jeremy. I get up every morning, and before my feet hit the floor, I say, God, here's what I'm doing today. Here's what's on our list. Here's our agenda. I'm going to put a bra on, and the rest is up to you. And you're welcome. I know. So, true story. That's what I say. So.
She got us back for the beginning of the
Yes,
program.
I did. Yes, I did. Try and sleep tonight with that in your.
Nope. Nope.
I sleep like a baby these days.
Oh, okay. I do not.
When I finally fall asleep.
Well, Mom, thank you.
I'm sorry. I talked the whole.
That was good.
It was your show.
my
This
God.
was about you.
so
And
sorry.
thank you.
I was hoping you were going to say what's really helped you is the Awake and Sober podcast, but
And that. And the Awake and Sober podcast. Yes, that was it. Yes, that's it.
I was gonna say, when I met your dad last week or whatever, man, like he met a movie star or something. He was like, I don't know, something about like his face just cleaned up when he saw me. And I'm like,
yeah, but we were at my meeting on Saturday, and Dad's sitting next to me, and Derek walks in. He's like, "Hey," and he sits like 2 chairs over, and I was like, "Have you ever met my dad?" He's like, "No." And then Dad's like, "Oh yeah, I know you. Yeah, I see you on the podcast."
He's so cute.
We kind of resemble one another.
Yeah,
too.
you do.
A little bit.
Oh, I spoke with somebody about that. I was like, you met his dad? Yeah. What did he look like? Jeremy with a white beard. Santa Claus and Jeremy. Smack. There you go. You got him.
That's funny. So, one of the last days he worked, some guy came in and was talking to him. He was waiting on him, and he says, "I have a card for you. I'll be right back." So he goes out to his car. He gives it to Jerry, and it's called the Red Coat Society, and it's people who play Santa Claus.
Nice.
He said, "In case you're interested." Jerry's like, "I just might be," and I was like, "Oh, you are interested. How much do they pay?" Yeah, I know.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
I was going to say, I think they do.
Well, this year at CR, I think our Christmas song programming, we may need a Santa Claus.
There you
Oh,
go.
he's done
Call
it
Mr.
before.
Jerry
He's
up.
actually, yeah,
Yeah.
he's done it before. So he was drunk when he did it. Though, so it'll be interesting to see how he does it sober. Yeah,
Isn't that
But the
movie called
ladies-
The Bad Santa?
Band Santa, yeah.
that would have been Jerry. He's like, you got to drive me down there. I was like, okay.
Take me on the sled.
Yeah, I know.
Here's the
Okay,
daggum
whatever.
reindeer.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh man. But those little old ladies, they didn't know. They were just like, oh, they just kept petting him. And I was like, okay, you take him home then, okay, ladies? Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Now we're at a petting zoo.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It was just
Santa.
Santa. It was just Santa. It's just Santa.
Oh, man. In closing, Derek, you got anything?
I don't, man. And there's a saying from a movie that I watched years back. It was a movie called The Crow, and I can just tell by the way Jeremy is with his mother, where the saying comes out something like, "Mother is the name for God on the lips of a child." Mm-hmm. You know, so it just kind of came to my attention, you know, with you guys here, and I appreciate you coming out here. Great job in that, and you really told it like I wanted to hear it, and I'm hoping that it reaches those family members out there that are, you know, have somebody in addiction and they're not understanding what their part is.
Yeah.
I think you explained it very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Big Perm?
Yeah, Mom, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I'll give you a ride home.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah.
No, I love that you get to share that. I love that you finally got to be on this show after how many years have we been doing this now? A year and a half, 2 years?
2 years, a year and a half plus,
Wow.
year and 3/4.
And I think it's great because we've had our wives on here before, and so having it from another family member, and it just happens to be my mom, I think is pretty freaking awesome. I always like to leave with a Bible verse, and I thought this was appropriate. My daughter highlighted this one. Proverbs 16:9. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps.
Truth.
Amen.
I get to listen to this about 5 more times as I edit.
Sorry.
No, that's always a good thing. I love it. I love being able to watch it, and I can't wait to see what the shorts are going to be from it. Hopefully not all from the beginning.
I hope so.
And hopefully not a brawl one either. I don't want my mom to brawl.
You dropped a lot of knowledge. There's a couple things that I want to go back and I want to listen to because I love the way that you said them. So I can't wait. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking me.
It is
Couldn't
amazing.
ask for a better person to bring that story, man. That was great.
Yeah, I think people are going to get a lot out of it. Who else do we need to say thank you to?
Mike for not showing up. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Jeez.
Mike, I love Mike,
Tactile
actually.
turn?
I was
Tactile
thinking,
Which reminds me, Conley said today, I got to get a new pencil. And I was like, well, I can pick you up some. He's like, is it a tactile turn pencil?
He wants a tactile turn.
I know.
It's
I was
so
like,
bad.
oh my gosh. I was like, no, it will be a Bic 49-cent one. He's like, what's a Bic?
not quite the same.
It's not. I know. That's what he
Grandma.
told me. Yeah. He's like, no.
Yeah, shout out to Tactile Turn, our sponsor. Check them out, tactileturn.com. Best writing utensils. We all own a Tactile Turn. Do you have a Tactile Turn pen? Did you get your mom a
I do
pen?
not.
She does that. She keeps score with one when we play cards or dominoes.
Yeah.
That's funny because that's all you write with in your house. Isn't it?
It is.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your mom a pen, man.
She started writing with the cheap one, and I was like, "Here." She's like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, and,
Tactile.
I mean, all the people
Go ahead.
listening could get their kids a tactile turn pencil for
There
school
you
this year.
go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then if it breaks, send it back to get you a new one. So hey, you want that be the last pencil you have to buy.
Ever.
What
Ever.
other what country
Country Design.
designs?
Yes. Shout them out on Facebook. Tell them Awake and Sober sent you. See our shirts, cups. They do it. I just feel like this is my challenge to you out there. Contact Country Designs. Ask her. Tell her what you're looking for, but just give her the idea and let her come with her. With
Is she on Facebook? Do you know? Or?
Yeah, she's on
Okay,
Facebook. That's all. She's on Facebook right now.
Where do you find us at?
What, Facebook?
No,
Usually on your phone.
No, where do you find Where do you find Awake and Sober?
Where do you find the podcast? Is what
On
it's asking.
every podcast
There you
platform.
go. Make sure you like,
Like, share, subscribe.
subscribe. Yes.
Yeah. What? You know, why don't you just?
No, you're doing great.
See, he just likes to be the reminder of it. You don't want to have to say it. Or just doubles it up.
Yes, Awake and Sober podcast. We're on every podcast platform,
It's
right?
easy for you
Edit
to
that.
say.
Yeah.
Anonymity.
Humidity. The humidity in this room is just going crazy. Anyway, so Awake and Sober podcast. Questions? You have any questions on that? Reach out. Awake and Sober
Info
at awakensober.org. And that we want to hear what you have to say. Once again,
Any questions from Mama Schwenker, send them in.
Please,
Yes.
please
We'll
do,
pass them along.
yes.
Happy to answer.
There you go. We'll have a whole podcast on questions from Mama Schwenker. We'll have to bring you back, Miss.
once a
right.
month where we do that. Yeah.
That would
That'd be
good.
fine.
We'll have to bring you back, Miss Val. We'll get all up on here.
Now, from everybody here at the Wake and Sober podcast, we love you guys. God bless, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.